Hello everyone, welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you for coming to the channel. Perhaps this evening we should call it Lush and Scary Aquariums because boy have I got a treat for you. I had a ball making this setup, an aquascape that replicates a decrepit old cemetery. I mean, I've been inspired to do something like this for the longest time. And I think it's a really cool idea to do it 10 times better than what I'm about to show you now. But still, even doing it here with stuff I had around the house and a few extras I found on the internet, it's so badass. It's really fun, and I'm just, you can tell from my voice, I'm super stoked. Some of you don't know, but one of my other passions is horror. Both from literature as well as film. I actually wrote a screenplay, a horror screenplay. It won a bunch of prizes back in the day, didn't get produced, almost did. But in any event, I'm able to combine my two passions into one to get us all into the season here. The leaves blowing around, the air getting cooler. Perfect weather, time, and place to make an aquascape, or a hardscape, I should say, of the living dead. So this is an old 5-gallon aquarium. It's been sitting outside with that gravel in it for 2 years, since I got here almost, in Chicago, out in the elements on a fire escape. So that is some really old and gnarly substrate. There's probably some dead bugs in it and everything. And I found these super cool, let me show you. Oh yeah, to get us in the mood, I lit a candle and brought out some of my skull affectations. Yep, I would wear this with my black leather. And that belt my wife got me for my birthday once. So I thought it would be fun to set that stuff out here. But these things, this is what I wanted to show you. I found these on Etsy. Somebody made tombstones and they're pretty realistic looking. And then this, some of you might recognize from the hobby for more, shall I say, G-rated pursuits. This is the created bonsai tree where they take driftwood, root piece there, and then they add a lot of smaller pieces to create a perfect ornament if you want to decorate your aquarium in the form of a tree. You can put Rickia moss, Monte Carlo, willow moss is really cool. Let it hang down and grow, flood that tank. Maybe do a carpet, an Iwagumi style, inspired anyway. And that idea at some point took me to this. I have a smaller one of those bonsai trees and I have it covered with some dead and dying Christmas moss or willow moss, sort of draped over as if the seasons and lack of care have just killed this tree and all that are around it. And I put in some of those tombstone markers and some moss and dead twigs, and I scrunched up, just in my hands, just ground up some dead leaves that I found the other day and sprinkled them all over. And I created an aquascape for the living dead. And you see how the moss, as it's dying, it looks just like something you'd, if you were in an old churchyard and you dared to walk into it at night or at twilight, maybe you would discover something like this. Now right now, I've got a light on it in sort of the moon glow form. It's so funny. I never use moon glow or the blue light ever. I don't even know why manufacturers offer it, to be honest with you. It doesn't do anything for the plants. It doesn't really highlight your aquarium very well, in my opinion. And I don't think nobody I know uses it. Do you? Maybe once in a blue moon to show your kids, your grandkids, or a child or something. But it's perfect for this. And this particular light's actually not a bad one. Let me show you. It's got a few, you can tell me what you like better. There's kind of more of a straight up light, a white LED. There's some sunlight to kill all the vampires that might be lurking in this boneyard. And then back to more of the blue. That gate there, I should have mentioned that maybe from Jump Street. That too I found on Etsy. I don't know who makes these things, but it's this wonderful faux wrought iron gate. Obviously it's not iron, it's some sort of applique, a plastic maybe. And I threw some old twigs. You know how trees and stumps tend to just sort of bust up iron over time and come through sidewalks and upend fences? Well, that's the effect I wanted to create here. And threw some moss and some twigs, maybe a little cocoa moss in there. Let it wilt for a day or two, and here you go. And I busted up the gate on purpose. I wanted that dead tree and the gate to have long since been upended by, I don't know, maybe the sorry creatures below trying to get out of this godforsaken place. Now, while I'm not going to flood this tank, it's not going to become an aquascape in my fish room. I will tell you, this is a great freaking idea if someone wants to do a really badass iwagumi or just a stylized scape. I always thought a cemetery, even one that's not decayed and decrepit like this, is essentially an iwagumi. I ride my bike by one on the way to my favorite LFS, and it's manicured, kind of boring, far from scary, but it's a green carpet with old stones. And if that's not the definition of an iwagumi, I don't know what is. So what if you were to take some Siriu stone and maybe in shapes that, not literally, but metaphorically, and if placed in just the right way, resemble tombstones, and then plant a carpeting plant, and then chop it real thin, you know, after it's lush, cut it down so it looks just like Cemetery by You. Maybe add one flourish, something, one or two things like that gate. And you can't really use wood in an iwagumi, but if you wanted to, you could certainly use one of these tree things, or just a few sticks, a few pieces of driftwood. After all, driftwood is dead wood, and dead wood's always gonna marry up well with a cemetery. What a great scape that would be. And then, oh my gosh, I got so inspired. Can you imagine one magnificent white beta, one of those pure white ones with the flowing fins, swimming through this cemetery with the blue light on, the never used before moon glow? It would look like a ghost, an apparition. It would be so freaking cool. If I had room in the fish room, and maybe, you know, a bit of a bigger tank perhaps. This is a 5 gallon. I think a 10 would be supreme. allow me to put more tombstones, maybe have a little more air between them. What other fish would be super awesome in a tank like this? I thought of the, what do they call those see-through catfish, glass catfish, but they're fragile. I think they like a different sort of environment. I mean, all fish is gonna like a different environment than a cemetery, but you know what I mean. More cover, but man, you could see all their skeletons. I think that would be pretty cool. The white beta with the flowing fins like a ghost, that's a hard concept to beat. You know, I wanted to do this scape and not have it be all trick-or-treaty, not a G-rated kids kind of pumpkins and witches, that sort of thing. The horror I like has nothing to do with content like that. You know, it all begins and ends with me at George Romero's Night of the Living Dead in black and white. You see, I used the thumbnail and I used the black and white feature on my phone to create it. That seminal horror film I watched when I was a kid, it was very inappropriate for me. I will tell you, it scared the you-know-what, and ever since then, I've relished going to the grindhouse to see all the horror movies I could, and then as the internet came into being, I watch movies most of you aren't even gonna know exist, and I love it. Gothic horror, Hammer Pictures, Dracula, and those are the mainstream ones. But all that, as my passion for aquariums and fish, what a treat to be able to bring them together just this once. When you think about an aquascape, an aquarium, a planted tank, there's so many videos right now, people talking about ecosystems and how death is a part of life, you know, and ashes to ashes, the thing the priest says every time someone has to go to a cemetery for a funeral. That decay, that beautiful decay, you know, I tried to capture it with this little build here, but even in my fish room, an active ecosystem relies on death to sustain its life. You know, as it was, as it shall forever be, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. I know that sounds like lyrics to a bad heavy metal song, but I'm paraphrasing the hell out of the stuff people say at a funeral. But how much fun was it to create this detail? I mean, did you notice that tombstone there? It's like one of those cement caskets you'd see in New Orleans where they would build them up above because of all the flooding, which is a creepy thought if you really think about it. But look at the gorgeous workmanship, those roses. And then there's the person who made that crucifix, not a crucifix, but the stone cross. I think that's a Celtic cross. You see it a lot in old cemeteries, but the moss on it, I didn't put that there. Someone appliqued it, just like that one right there. The kind of clock tower shaped one. And I made sure not to put them in straight, not all of them anyway. This one's sort of straight, even has something written on it, rest in peace, I think. But then you see that this cemetery hasn't been cared for in ages. So one of them's fallen over onto that dead tree as the roots push it up and violate the casket within. And those 100-year-old corpses have become part of the decay and beauty of this aquarium. I mean, I'm not morbid. I don't have a death wish or anything. But I used to sort of, when I would go on my long walks, where I would run for some and then walk for some, I knew it was a little déclassé but often I would cut through some of the cemeteries here in Chicago, like Rose Hill, very famous cemeteries, people that are buried there. They're iconic. And cemeteries tend to be open. They're open to the public. You know, I didn't jog through it. I would stop and walk and be a little more respectful than that. And occasionally I'd see, you know, a coyote or something running across. A shiver might go up and down my spine, and then I get the hell out of there. I'm still capable of being scared in a bad way, but mostly I think being scared, this kind of scared, and this kind of entertained, is just a good time. But man, oh man, if you're watching this and you think about that idea of using some old Sirius stone, or I don't know, Dragonstone's pretty interesting, although it doesn't look like tombstones. It would certainly fit the motif of death and decay. I mean, everything we put, botanicals, for crying out loud, those are dead leaves and sticks and seed pods. Death and decay is all shot through our hobby, and it's part of life itself. And a cemetery is a forever reminder of, you know, memento mori, remember we must die. It's a Latin phrase. If I had tattoos, I'd put that one right on my butt. And you see it in Victorian cemeteries, memento mori, remember we all die. I think that's... And aquariums, even the nicest, highest tech ones, can remind us on a daily basis, not just with a dead fish, but just things that have decayed, the way a plant might decay at the bottom and have vigorous life at the top, the way moss grows, creeps out of the tank, and on the undercarriage it will be brown, and on the top it'll be lush. I love talking about our ecosystems in that way, and I was certainly inspired to bring this particular, what do you want to call it, cemetery hardscape to you all. What do you think? If you have any questions, by all means hit me up. I think this is scary cool. I hope you did too. As always, folks, keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.